You'll see me for half a second.
Good evening and welcome, everybody. I am Free. I am the host of Are You Smarter Than a Politician? Tonight, we're hosting a debate for candidates seeking the role of vice chair of the Libertarian National Committee. The questions tonight were supplied directly by the audience, and you can continue to submit questions at ask.lpalliance.com. We'll begin with a 2-minute introduction from each candidate before moving into audience questions. Each candidate will then have 2 minutes to answer every question, giving you a chance to hear where they stand, how they think under pressure, and how they would shape the future of the Libertarian Party. Let's get started. Amanda, introduce yourself to everyone.
I knew you were going to make me go first. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thanks you so much for hosting, Free. I'm running for vice chair of the Libertarian National Committee. And I'm doing that in order to make the Libertarian Party a high agency political party. What does that mean? It has to do with members, has to do with states, has to do with candidates. When it comes to members, members need more opportunities to be involved on both the state and the national levels. I want to give them that. I want to give them the opportunities to coordinate with one another. Traditionally, the vice chair has a big role to play when it comes to empowering members and serving as their voice. I want to do that, but more importantly, I want to give members the opportunity to be their own voices when it comes to the national stage. If we're talking about states, one thing that I am going to be able to do, and we might get into this later, I'm going to make this a full-time job. You elect me, you get a full-time vice chair. What that means is that's going to allow me to talk with states and state chairs directly, much more in a much more involved way, asking them, what do you need? What's happening in your state? What are the legislative initiatives that we can help promote and platform on the national level? What can we give you? What resources? Candidates, to me, it makes no sense that we only support candidates during campaigns and then leave them hanging when it comes to actual governance. What we need to be doing is supporting candidates before the campaign, during the campaign, and after the campaign with policy teams that are able to help them promote the Libertarian Party's agenda and not simply leave them hanging. So I'm here to take this party forward, and I would be very grateful to have your vote and support in Grand Rapids. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Bryce, to you.
Sure. So for those who do not know me, I am Bryce Tone. I am a member of the Libertarian Party since around 2021. Mainly been involved in Wisconsin. I've had a litany of experience on a multitude of committees, from bylaws to candidate sport, affiliate sport, currently on the LNC. And the reason I am running is because I've watched over the duration of my time in the party, there's been, especially recently, a rapid decrease in trust from our affiliates and our members. And I think, given the current situation, from a financial standpoint, from a member standpoint, we need somebody in the role of vice chair who is going to provide the ideas to effectively and efficiently promote libertarianism while being sound with our capital and our resources. So that's why I'm running. It's what I intend to do. A lot of my campaign is going to be focused around that, and I hope to get your support in Grand Rapids.
Excellent. Thank you, Bryce. Tony, to you.
Hi, I'm Tony DeRazio. For those of you who don't know me, I have been a libertarian since the days of Harry Brown, the first run. My first libertarian vote was for Harry Brown in 1996. And I'm lucky to have been around this party long enough to be able to tell his vice presidential candidate that I got to vote for her twice, which was a special feeling for me. I have been active in both the New York and Pennsylvania parties. I'm currently a Pennsylvania Libertarian right now. I'm the affiliate support chair in Pennsylvania. I'm also chair of the Clearfield County Libertarian Party, which we founded 2 years ago. It had been dormant for a long time. I'm here in Pennsylvania building affiliates. I've served as the chair and vice chair of the Libertarian Party of New York during some of our most trying times, and haven't been afraid to sue the state for our ballot access. I've been active on several national committees, including the IS committee in 2021 to 2022, and the current platform and ballot access committees. I've been a strong fighter for liberty and for this party for a long time. I've seen the problems. We are a broken party right now. We're a party that still suffers from a lot of infighting, a lot of lack of communication, and I know that these are fixable problems because I have fixed these problems as chair and vice chair in New York. I have fixed these problems serving on the board in Pennsylvania. I would really appreciate your vote, and I look forward to our conversation tonight and see where we all stand on the issues.
Excellent. Thank you, Tony. I just want to point out once again, if you'd like to ask a question, you can use the QR code that's up there in the corner, or go to ask.lpalliance.com. And if Kyle has our first question, let's do that, Kyle. Excellent. All right, Amanda, I'll pick on you again. What do you bring to the table that the other candidates for vice chair don't?
My hair. In addition to my hair, which I do think is very cool, but that's not the most important thing. One thing that I'm able to bring is a very unique background in many arenas. I forgot to credential myself at the start. So as for my roles in the Libertarian Party, currently, I am the secretary of the Libertarian Party of Wisconsin. I am a first mover with LPAlliance. I am the regional vice chair for North America and the IALP, International Alliance of Libertarian Parties, as well as their policy and strategy chair. However, my background is extremely comprehensive. I have been I've worked in think tanks, I've worked in policy, I have worked in the entertainment industry, I have worked in publishing, I've worked in journalism and media. What this allows me to do is it's given me a very unique understanding of the role that optics play in making principles palatable to the general public, and knowing that everyone has a role to play in doing that. Something that I mentioned earlier as well that I can bring is the ability to take this on full time. So I am going to devote minimum 40 hours per week. I had been saving to move to Chicago for several years now, been investing, and I now have the means to devote myself to this role as a full-time job. That is something that I'm very fortunate to be able to do. It's also going to mean that you're going to have a lot more hands-on experience with me, and I'm going to make sure that issues get elevated where they need to be, and that we can be a better political engine for the liberty movement.
Excellent. Thank you, Amanda. Same question to you, Bryce. What do you bring to the table that the other candidates for vice chair don't?
Sure. So while I've had less experience in the party than Mr. DeRazio, what I bring is I've had background in just about every committee you could possibly think of in that short time. Every single position I've held, I have brought a very consistent and determined workflow to make things happen. So while I have other full-time jobs, I'm going to give you full-time effort within that time frame. And I've shown that even with individuals that I may not agree with very often, when they bring something to the table that I think is worth pursuing, I give it 120% to work with them and help them make sure that succeeds within the party.
Excellent. Thank you, Bryce. Tony, to you, the question is, what do you bring to the table that the other candidates for vice chair don't?
Well, in a word, experience. I've been a state chair. I've been a state vice chair. I've been a local affiliate state chair and vice chair as well, and I bring that experience. I also bring experience as a candidate. I've twice been a candidate, once for Congress in 2016 and once for town justice in East Rochester, New York in 2018. I bring fundraising experience. I was the associate fundraising director for the Larry Sharp campaign in 2018 that raised over $250,000. And also ran one of the most successful fundraising events for Chase Oliver in 2024 in Pennsylvania. I bring experience building affiliates. I bring experience bringing people together. I bring litigation experience specifically as it pertains to the Libertarian Party. I bring a wealth of experience, and The last thing I bring is the knowledge that I don't know everything and I am not the best at everything. So I bring my personality, my willingness and in fact eagerness to work with everybody and hear what everybody else's ideas are as well. I will be the first to admit I don't have every single answer, and I look forward to working with every libertarian in this party to really build us to something special.
Excellent. Thank you, Tony. Next question, we'll go to Bryce first. What do you think would be your biggest flaw as LNC vice chair, and how do you hope to overcome that flaw?
I would say my biggest flaw is probably the amount of time that I've spent at the national level. I've only for the last year really been involved at the national level. For the most part, I've been focused on Wisconsin. So I would say probably lack of experience. With that said, I have transferable skills to more than make up for that. I went to Chippewa Valley Technical College for electrical power distribution. One of the things we had to do then was we had to be a foreman for our crews during the duration of our time there. I've effectively played the role of de facto lead in some healthcare positions that I've held. So I have experience as a leader. I forgot to mention it earlier, but I currently run the Chippewa Valley affiliate here in Wisconsin. And in the short amount of time that affiliate's existed, we've already got a lot of interest in getting involved. So while I may not have as much experience at the national level, I have plenty of transferable skills from other things that I've done that can overcome that.
Excellent. Thank you, Bryce. Next to you, Tony, same question. What do you think would be your biggest flaw as LNC vice chair, and how do you hope to overcome that flaw?
Well, I'm going to turn the question a little bit on its head here because I don't really believe in flaws. I can tell you what some of the criticisms of me have been by some people, and some people think I'm sometimes a little too nice to people and give people a lot of chances. I intend to continue to do that. I'm not somebody who gets into the name calling, knockdown dragouts online. I will certainly debate an issue very passionately. One thing, when I ran for a national chair in 2022, one of the things that I was heard to say quite a bit, to the point where some people had buttons made with this on it, was don't mistake my kindness for weakness. And I intend to live by that rule. I intend to bring my kindness, hopefully bring this party back together, that among other things, but also show my strength in standing up for what's right, and my strength in standing up to the state, which is really the real enemy here.
Excellent. Thank you, Tony. Same question to you, Amanda. What do you think would be your biggest flaw as LNC vice chair, and how do you hope to overcome that flaw?
Yeah, I think Tony is onto something with, every weakness can be a strength, and every strength also, I would say, can be a weakness. I like to get things done. However, that said, that also means that I can be a little bit impatient. If I see a problem, I want it solved now. And that means that I am more radical and I'm less incrementalist. I have difficulty sometimes sitting on my hands when it is indeed more strategic to move a little bit more slowly. One thing that I've been really fortunate to have in LPAlliance and in other relationships within the party is that I work to surround myself with people who are going to push back. I work to surround myself with people who are going to say, have you considered this? Have you thought about that? Is it really best to go full speed ahead, Leroy Jenkins into everything? And the answer is no, it's not. The way that I hope to overcome, and I'm working to overcome the impatience, is honestly to have people around me who are able to check it. I believe in strong personalities. I have one, and I like to work with people with strong personalities too, who can push back. I come at things with an attitude of equanimity, of wanting to learn from people. Unfortunately, people are able to teach me to wait on things sometimes, to be a little bit more strategic, and not always rush headfirst into everything. And I'm really grateful for that. I'm going to continue to do that.
Excellent. Thank you, Amanda. I would just like to point out again, if you would like to ask a question, there is a QR code right there, and you can scan that and ask a question, or you can go to ask.lpalliance.com, and the money that you pledge for your question will help get Povertarians to Grand Rapids next week. And every voice matters, and money shouldn't stop anyone from being heard. We want to get as many people there as want to be there. So every dollar counts. So please help us out with that. All right, let's move on to the next question. I'll go to Tony first. Tony, if you don't win, will you still be involved and helpful in the party?
I didn't win in 2022 and I'm still here. So yes, I will. This is my political home. The LP is my family. I said this on the stage in Reno. You guys are like my family. Just like Alex Merced said to us in 2018 when he was running for this very same position. This is my family. This is my home. Just because I lose an internal election, I'm not going to just cut and run. We still have a lot of work to do, and we're going to need a lot of hands to do it. So yeah, I'll still be here.
Excellent. Thank you, Tony. Same question to you, Amanda. If you don't win, will you still be involved and helpful in the party?
Absolutely. I think some people know there are a lot of initiatives that I'm pushing for in Grand Rapids. One of them is my candidacy. I'd also like to see some bylaws changes passed. And whatever happens, I am going to be there for the party. I'm going to be trying to make it the strongest that it's ever been. I've been working for the past several years now, working on that, and especially for the past 2 since LPAlliance came about. I will continue to be active in LPAlliance, and I'm going to continue to be active in all the roles that I have, working to make this party stronger. I do believe that I can do that the best as vice chair, but whatever happens, I will be there with the party.
Excellent. Thank you, Amanda. Same question to you, Bryce. If you don't win, will you still be involved and helpful in the party?
Absolutely. Not a lot of people don't probably know this, but I actually ran for chair of my state party last year, and I was pretty soundly defeated. And to this day, I've still been, I've been involved in several committees in my state party. When asked for my input, I've bounced ideas off of Reese Wood, who's our current chair's bounced ideas with him. I was working on Defend the Guard last legislative session with Phil Anderson. And I've been involved at the national level in other subcommittees. So yes, absolutely. As long as the party wants my help, I'm going to provide it.
Thank you, Bryce. All right, next question. We'll go back to you, Amanda. What motivated you to run for this seat?
So I was asked to run by 2 chair candidates. I was asked by Evan McMahon. I was asked by Rob Yates. And initially, I was unsure. Ultimately, what motivated me to run for this was the fact that I'd been working with members of the party, and we had all seen a lack of transparency. We'd all seen a lack of accountability. I felt as though, in a lot of ways, I was coming at this as sort of the ordinary rank and file member, being an outspoken critic of some of the things that were going on at the national level. I can still be that kind of outspoken critic, and I would like to have people be that outspoken critic of me when that time comes. But what motivated me to run for this was the fact that I wanted to be a voice for the members that I had been working with very closely. I had seen the changes that they wanted to have made. I developed ways to address the problems that they'd articulated. We'd workshop them together. So again, the members had been voiceless. I wanted to not just be that voice, but allow them to have their own voice on the national stage. And so that's what motivated me, is the idea that, okay, well, I've been working on this with a bunch of people, and I think I can actually make a change, especially when there are people that I trust and admire asking me to run for this role as well.
Great. Thank you, Amanda. Bryce, to you, same question. What motivated you to run for this seat?
So what motivated me to run for this seat was I had seen I'll be honest, I had seen the vice chair candidates that had declared before me, which would have been Mr. Durazio, Ms. Griffiths. And the issues that I felt needed to be pushed at the forefront, I don't feel like were being addressed with those candidates. I've got some things that I'm very passionate about, and I've seen, as I'm sure everyone has, a loss in membership and affiliate trust, and I think I can bring that back. So it was a case of the issues I care about, I and I'm very passionate about, and the health of the party, I didn't feel like was being addressed with the candidates that had existed. So I threw my name in.
Thank you. Tony, to you, same question. What motivated you to run for this seat?
That's a great question, and believe me, my fiance keeps asking me that too. Why are you doing this to us? But the reality is because I know how I've done at the state level. I've got that experience bringing members into the party. I've got that experience building affiliates. I've got that experience raising money. I've got that experience bridging gaps between groups in the party that are at odds with each other. I've got the experience taking care of people who are problematic to the party and facing those problems head on. These are all things we need at the national level. I decided to run for this seat because we had several good chair candidates running already, and I felt like I could be a complement to any of them.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Next question, we'll go to Bryce first. What is your plan to repair the brand damage to the party and the name Libertarian?
Yeah, so that more or less gets into the objectives I have and the things that I wish to run on. One of the things that I would like to see improved on is support for our affiliates. Really obvious example going on right now in New Mexico. The Derek Scott's Free New Mexico Party really needs our support with a matter that's going on down there, and I intend to be a strong advocate for him, just as I have been as our Region 1 junior alternate. I'd also like to start seeing our leadership actually use their positions to kind of throw their weight around during legislative sessions. So during legislative season, obviously everyone knows that you can call your legislator and tell them how you would like them to vote on matters. But when you're calling just on behalf of yourself, you're representing yourself. That really doesn't mean much to them. However, if you say, hey, I'm Bryce Tone, I'm vice chair of the Libertarian Party, now you represent more than just yourself. You represent, in their eyes, hundreds of thousands of Americans who care about an issue and need it addressed, and now they got to take it a little more seriously. I think we could do that. I think we should start speaking during legislative sessions on bills. And when congressmen don't want to play ball, then we should be phone banking our members in that area and getting them out and about and letting people know what their representative is up to.
Thank you. Tony, to you, what is your plan to repair the brand damage to the party and the name Libertarian?
That's a great question, and I've got a multi-part answer, and no one person is going to solve this entire problem, but it is a problem. The first thing we need to do is we need to start restoring professionalism to our party. The performative politics that have tarnished our brand, especially some that we're seeing lately out of a certain state in the Northeast, have hurt us, It's time for us at the National Party to be adults in the room and demand a level of decorum and demand support for the libertarian platform. We have the strongest liberty platform of any party, better than the duopoly, better than any other minor party. We are the third largest, and at one point we were the fastest growing party. We were because we had our messaging down pat, and we were professional about our messaging, bold but professional. There's a difference between being bold and being edgy, and we need to be bold, not edgy. We were smart about promoting candidates and building our candidates and giving our candidates every piece of the every mouthpiece that we could to talk about libertarianism and the libertarian party and how we are the best vehicle. And we have a great media platform. We've got social media, and everybody looks, hey, look, we got a great Twitter account, and you got a lot of followers, and you get a lot of traction there, and that's great. And the Facebook page, but we have a YouTube channel. We have access to traditional media. We have access to put out press releases, making sure that we are getting ourselves in front of the press, making sure that we're getting ourselves out there. And yes, saying it full-throated, hi, I'm Tony DeRazio, and I'm vice chair of the Libertarian Party, is a great way to lend a little bit of gravitas to everything you're saying. That policy-first communication has got to be in the front, and it's got to be professional. We've got to be the adults in the room.
Time. Excellent. Thank you, Tony. Amanda, to you, what is your plan to repair the brand damage to the party and the name Libertarian?
It's a multi-part answer. I agree that we need to have professionalism. I think, though, what that means is being professionally libertarian, taking this incredibly seriously. We have been bold in messaging, we've been edgy in messaging, and lately we have tried to make that edginess solely in the area of rhetoric rather than policy and rather than principles. We have incredibly edgy, radical principles. Literally, we believe in individualism, the fundamental denominator of agency. That is the most radical premise for the state. So we do need to be edgy in the right way on principles, especially when you have the current media environment that you do, where people are only paying attention to something for a couple minutes. You need to grab their attention, but you don't do that with random sound bites and slurs. You do that with actual ideas that stick to people and that are talking about materially salient issues. So one thing that we do is action. We show people rather than tell. We get out, we make issue coalitions, issue-specific coalitions. We recruit other people to work with us, because when people are working with us, that's investment, that's buy-in. They want it to work. They want to invest more. That also creates visibility. People see us. National sets the tone when it comes to messaging, but members and states are also doing that, and they're also carrying that tune. So empowering members and states to do more when it comes to action. We also need to frankly make the party unpalatable to people who want to distort libertarianism and warp them for their personal interests, their personal policy interests, or make it a farm team for the Republicans or the Democrats. The Libertarian Party is for libertarians. Libertarianism is for everyone. And that's a critical distinction that we need to make. So I would say action. I would say making sure that members and states have the opportunity to engage in good messaging, and that National is able to promote that effectively and show the door when people are not engaging and behaving in the way that our bylaws say that they need to be behaving. This is a very easy thing.
Excellent. Thank you, Amanda. Next question is going to be to Tony, and Kyle told me this is going to be a fun one. So Tony, to you, who would win in a fight between you and a kangaroo, and why?
It is a fun one. I don't know. Kangaroos will kick your ass. So, I would be running out of the cage and slamming the door behind me. So I guess I win by default because I get my freedom and he gets he's in captivity. If we're just going to be throwing hands, I'm going to get some bones broken because those legs are really, really powerful.
Excellent. Thank you, Tony. All right, Amanda, to you.
Look,
Who
okay,
would win a fight between you and a kangaroo, and why?
this might be my most unpopular answer of the night. I've seen kangaroos. I've been to petting zoos. Kangaroos are lazy. They don't do anything. They look like they're too lazy to even canvass for weed legalization because they're so stoned the entire time. I would win in a fight with a kangaroo. I might not have the bronze, but I have the actual motivation to kick the kangaroo and run away. So I would absolutely win the fight with the kangaroo. Nobody believes me on this, but I would dominate in a fight with a kangaroo, and I stand by that. I'm not going to be running alongside a kangaroo, that's for sure.
I feel like you're 12 pounds and that might not happen. But all right, Bryce, to you, who would win a fight between you and a kangaroo, and why?
I don't know who would win in a fight between me and a kangaroo. Kangaroos are pretty jacked, and they have, when they are pissed off, which doesn't take very much, there's a lot of force behind their kicks and their grappling. I will say, though, that if I'm absolutely forced to fight a kangaroo, that kangaroo is going to feel it. I'm not going to go down without swinging.
Excellent. You're going to get your punches in. So good for you. All right. Next question goes to Amanda.
That's not
even
a question.
That's not even a question. That's a nap shout out there. It's got to be a consensual kangaroo fight. All right, Kyle, do we got another question here? I think everybody.
Yes, it broke. Sorry.
I feel like everybody answered the dumb kangaroo question, so I think we need to move on.
He wasn't expecting it to be so fast. That's the thing.
Is there a ferret question or
Neither
a
is the
wrestling
kangaroo.
gator or something we can put up on the screen?
So the people who formatted these questions for me did not make them short. I didn't catch that one of these is too long. I apologize. So we're going to skip this one for a second and come back to it.
A little behind the scenes look for everybody.
It's already better than last night. It's fine.
That is true.
You can hear us. So.
Yes.
That is true.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I think this one is to Amanda then. The position of vice chair can be time intensive. What is your current work schedule, both for employment and for volunteering for organizations? And how much time are you able to commit to the position?
I've said before, full-time, and I mean that. So I got into this a little bit earlier. I have, for the past several years, been saving up because I've wanted to move back to Chicago. And I've invested, I've saved a lot of money. And after looking at finances and talking with several people, I am going to be able to take this on full-time as a job. Currently, my volunteer schedule, it's basically all things that have to do with the party. So maybe I should have said that one of my greater flaws is that I'm not particularly well-rounded. But when it comes to the work that I do with the torch, with publishing, with writing articles, that does take some of my time. It also feeds right into the work of vice chair, though, and making sure that we are promoting libertarianism and giving people a voice. When it comes to my work with other organizations like IALP, again, making sure that the U.S. Brand of libertarianism is represented, and making sure that we can push back against global forces of totalitarianism plays into making our party stronger. So there is a time-intensive element to the volunteer work that I'm already doing. What I'm wanting to do is then integrate that with the work that I'm doing as vice chair. And again, this is going to be a full-time job. I'm able to commit to traveling. I'm able to commit to talking with states, talking with state chairs, talking with members, and building infrastructure as well. I've got a great team with me that's willing to do this, building infrastructure to make sure that members and states can connect with one another and develop initiatives and engage in different types of coalition building.
Excellent. Thank you, Amanda. Bryce, to you, the position of vice chair can be time intensive. What is your current work schedule, both for employment and for volunteering for organizations? And how much time are you able to commit to the position?
So as far as employment goes, I currently work 3 jobs, so I probably have the most as far as like actual employment goes. I don't really have a day off. Thankfully, I am also a very light sleeper. And the only non-Libertarian Party work that I am doing is with the Young Americans for Liberty. So as far as volunteer work goes. So I'm able to commit what it takes. I'm well aware that it's a very time intensive job. I knew what I was getting into when I signed up to run for it. I have every intent on being there as much as I'm needed to get this party moving forward in a positive direction.
Excellent. Tony, to you, the position of vice chair can be time intensive. What is your current work schedule, both for employment and for volunteering for organizations? And how much time are you able to commit to the position?
Well, first of all, I love that people are thinking this way. It is it's a time and labor intensive position that pays exactly $0. So I have an 8 to 5 Monday to Friday job, during which time I'm usually spending part of that time taking phone calls or messaging with somebody on a libertarian issue of some sort. Almost every day. So I have an 8 to 5 job. It's one where I have a little bit of flexibility on. I am not well rounded either. My volunteer work is really with the Libertarian Party, with those national committees that I'm on, and also with the LPPA. I'd have to scale some of that back just a little bit, but I have a good number 2 for affiliate support here in Pennsylvania, for example, that I lean on to help push a lot of that forward. I don't sleep much. I get maybe 4 hours a night, and I still manage to be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Probably the 8 gallons of coffee I drink every day. So I intend to dedicate a significant amount of time to this position, what it requires, because it is a time and labor intensive position, and I intend to give it everything I can.
Excellent. Thank you, Tony. Next question will go to Bryce.
This one's yes. As a note, there are some things that are intended for individuals. So far, no one has been throwing anything at Tony individually. So I encourage people to donate and yell at Tony. Ask Tony his shoe size for me.
All right. So Bryce, this is to you. A caucus founded by one of the candidates participating in this debate has repeatedly advocated repealing the 19th Amendment. If this is supposedly a broader critique of democracy, why repeatedly singling out women's suffrage specifically?
So yeah, that is definitely a broader critique of democracy. And the reason why is because I've given more or less a fairly free reign when it comes to the social media guy. And look, the 19th Amendment, among several other post 10 amendments, has for negatively affected the system we live under. At the end of the day, every single person has property rights. That is the rights they universally have. Anything else is more of a privilege, and that extends to voting rights. Voting rights are not a thing. They are actually just privileges granted by the government, and we shouldn't be afraid to talk about the mistakes that have come with some of those issues.
All right, thank you. Kyle, am I asking this question to everyone, or? All right, this question is for Amanda. My question is, since you are the North American Region Vice Chair for the IALP, why do you feel the need to be a dual officer for both organizations?
I also see underneath it says, do you understand that some delegates may see this as a possible conflict of interest? The answer is, based on what's been said about the IALP, I do understand how some delegates might see this as a possible conflict of interest. Unfortunately, most of what's been said about the IALP is just untrue. For instance, The LNC, the Libertarian Party, and the ILP don't exchange money. They don't exchange funds. We have absolutely no obligation to enter into binding policy agreements or platform agreements. What this is this is a group of libertarian organizations, mostly parties, but also sometimes like think tanks in other countries and in the US that are fighting global totalitarian forces. These are exactly the groups of people that are against what people are referring to as this globalist scourge, people encroaching on their liberties. We're pushing back against it, and we're helping to amplify one another's challenges and learn from one another's successes and failures. It's been really fantastic to do that. So when it comes to my role as vice chair and role as North American vice chair, this is one of those places where things are integrated very seamlessly, where as vice chair, I'm able to share what's going on with the Libertarian Party, with IALP, and we're able to talk about it. We're able to talk about the various areas where our interests do overlap and work there. Where they don't, where we disagree on policy, they don't overlap, we don't work together. So this is a wonderful opportunity for coordination across borders, because the cause of liberty defies state borders. The individual is paramount. That's what this organization is about. So I'm happy to serve on both. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. My question for Tony is, obviously one of the big problems in the party is the factionalism and the infighting. How would you bring people together?
Well, in a word, communication. And frankly, this is going to be a two-part answer. And my first one is communication. I have never been one to fall into or join in with any particular faction. I'm just not. I haven't joined it. Waffle House caucus. Okay. I love me a good waffle. But other than that, I have not joined into any of those factions. I've worked with people from every faction in this party. I don't pretend that my brand of libertarianism is the only way that people can be libertarian. I don't pretend that I have all the answers. And by being that reasonable adult in the room and being willing to work with almost anybody, and I'll get into the almost in a second, I've shown. I hope I've shown that I can bring that unity and reduce the factionalism and the infighting by leading by example. There are some cases, like for example, when somebody is committing fraud or violence against the party, where you cannot unify. And we had that happen in New York, where we had two members, in fact, who committed fraud, and I didn't unify against with them. We banded together and made a motion, and this was me who made that motion and made the move to remove those people from the party. You can't unify with those who are committing fraud against you. You can unify with people who have a slightly different brand of libertarianism than you, and I live that every day.
Excellent, thank you, Tony. And the Waffle House caucus sounds delicious. So, all right,
It is.
This question I think is to everyone. So I'll go to Bryce first. Previous officers have fallen into controversy due to financial wrongdoings against the party while acting as an officer. This may have been due to financial challenges faced by those persons. What is your current financial situation like, and are you able to provide for yourself reasonably in ordinary circumstances without the need of outside assistance?
Yeah, so currently my financial situation is great. I have absolutely no need for financial assistance. As a matter of fact, I've actually been helping people that a lot of people wouldn't know about in their times of need. Recently, within the Libertarian Party, I've provided assistance financially. A couple of years ago, if you had asked this, yeah, I was in a little bit of financial trouble. That is no longer the case. It hasn't been the case, and hopefully will continue to not be the case. I'm sitting great financially, and I'm more than capable of providing for myself.
Excellent. Tony, same question to you. What is your current financial situation like? Are you able to provide for yourself reasonably without the need of outside assistance?
So my current financial situation is fine. I could use a new car, but I'm certainly not going to turn to the party's finances to get me a new car. I can get that myself just fine. I'm not facing any major financial challenges, no more than anybody else is with our current state of inflation and the price of gasoline. I am able to provide for myself reasonably in ordinary circumstances without the need for outside assistance. I've never had to throw up a GoFundMe to pay for any sort of medical treatment for myself. I am able to provide for myself and my family just fine. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Same question to you, Amanda. What is your current financial situation like? Are you able to provide for yourself reasonably without the need of outside assistance?
Well, as you can see with my bedroom, my gym, and my kitchen, and my library all in one place, I don't like to live above my means. But as I've said a few times in this debate, I'm in a situation where I can take this on full time. So my financial situation is good. It's very secure. And I look forward to being able to use that to the benefit of the party, as opposed to, just getting myself a new car, which I might also like, but the Dodge Avenger's doing just fine. So.
Excellent. Thank you, Amanda. All right. Next question,
Sorry.
please, Kyle.
Sorry.
Come on, Vanna. Get your ass moving.
See, this is Amanda keeps telling me that I've got to get myself speed, and this is exactly why.
I never said that, by the way. That's a lie. That is slander.
She means legal speed, for the record, for the government watching this and trying to ruin us all.
I'll get you some truck stop speed.
There we
next
go.
Time I'm on.
I definitely have some problems with ADHD, and I'm not medicated for it. So sorry, y'all.
All right. This one's to Tony. The vice chair is required to assist and cooperate with the chair in his duties and will also need to work with other members of the national committee. How easily are you able to work with others, and what is your style of working with others?
That's a great question. I've proven that I've been a vice chair at the state level and had to work with a couple of different chairs in those duties. So I'm able to do that. Cooperate with the chair, work with the chair in advancing strategy and advancing the Libertarian Party, and also in the boring stuff like running meetings. Because I've been a chair, I know what a chair needs to do, and I know how to run a meeting, and that's one of those duties that sometimes gets forgotten. So I'm easily able to work with others as well, easily able to build coalitions. My style of working with others is collaborative and communication. I work with others not necessarily right there in the moment, but well before there are moments. I want to get to know my committee and get to know my fellow members and get to know my chair. Yes, where they stand on issues, but also, where they stand in life. And there's that relationship building that also needs to be done well before you have to work with people. And that's been my style, both professionally and in the party.
Excellent. Thank you, Tony. Amanda, to you, the vice chair needs to work with other members of the national committee. How easily are you able to work with others, and what is your style of working with others?
LPAlliance calls itself an intercaucus coalition for a reason, which means that we have people from all caucuses and no caucuses, and we don't always have the same ideas about what needs to be done. From my background in academia, for instance, I approach everything with an attitude of equanimity, and I approach everything and everyone as a teacher. So I come in and I want to learn. I want to know what people have to teach me. And what that's been able to do is it's been able to yield really productive conversations where we say, okay, what do we agree on? What are we working toward? What are the specific concrete things? And from there, where are points of disagreement? One thing that I believe in, I said I believed in strong personalities earlier, is I believe in defending your ideas vociferously, and I expect other people to do the same. If I have an opinion, I'm going to defend it. I'm going to stand my ground and give it the best hearing that I possibly can. And then I want someone else to do the same for their opinion, because what that allows us to do is figure out what's at the root of it. What are we actually working toward at the root of it? And can we agree on that? And sometimes I'm wrong and I've missed something in my analysis, and people get to point that out to me, but that's only from defending our positions from a place of integrity and from a place of faith in those positions. So how I work with people is I work in kind of a playful format, but also in a format that takes seriously what we believe in, where I expect people to defend what they believe in from a very principled place and very strongly, and I do the same. I love working with people who have different ideas. It's what helps me to improve my own and sometimes change my mind. But I'm always right. So, when I change my mind, I'm wrong.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda. Bryce, to you, the vice chair is required to work with other members of the national committee. How easily are you able to work with others, and what is your style of working with others?
Okay, so actually, contrary to the reputation I've kind of built, fairly or not, it's actually incredibly easy for me to work with others. Am I going to be controversial or not controversial, passionate about my positions and stand my ground? Sure. But I have made it very clear, even within my state party, I want to work with productive people. And if you are a productive member of the party and you are moving things in a positive direction, I don't care if you're on the complete opposite end of the political organization, I will find a way to work with you. The people that tend to have issues with me are the people that tend to not pull their weight. And yeah, I'm not going to sit by and let people get away with that, but it's with good intention. I'm here to make sure work gets done and the party is productive and efficient with its time.
Excellent. Thank you, Bryce. Real quick, I just want to point out again, if you want to ask a question, there's a QR code there, or go to ask.lpalliance.com. That money is going to get the Povertarians to Grand Rapids next week, so please help us out. Our next question, please. All right, so Amanda, this is to you. As vice chair, you may be required to preside over meetings in the chair's stead. How versed are you at parliamentary procedure and presiding over meetings? Also, how well are you able to keep a meeting cordial, and how will you discipline members for infractions during a meeting?
All right, so a lot there. I am too well-versed in parliamentary procedure. I'm more well-versed than I want to be, although there are other people who know significantly more than me, and I frequently refer to them for questions that I have about the stickier stuff. I do know Roberts. I do know how to keep a meeting running. One thing that I do is although I'm resigning before taking the office as vice chair, I currently am the president of the committee that makes the spending decisions for LPAlliance's funds. And so that means that I do have to run meetings. I do have to run it according to Roberts, because that's what we use. And I'm able to do that. Fortunately, we don't have people who are incredibly disruptive in those meetings, but I know, because I've looked into this, that there are very definitive ways for removing disruptive members from meetings, disruptive committee members from meetings, according to a process. There's a way of doing that. As vice chair, if someone is acting up, I am going to make sure that people know that there are mechanisms for having people removed if they continue to make a scene and they continue to be dilatory. I've learned this because I have seen it lacking on the LNC. That's one thing that I'm going to be able to do, is say, hey, here's what you do to get someone, if they need to be removed temporarily, then this is how it happens. And I'm going to insist on it if it needs to happen.
Excellent. Thank you, Amanda. Bryce, to you, how well versed are you at parliamentary procedures and presiding over meetings? And how well are you able to keep a meeting cordial? And how will you discipline members for infractions during a meeting?
Okay, so to answer the first part of that question, I'm probably admittedly the least versed. However, I have had opportunities even in Wisconsin, where I'm most definitely not the chair or vice chair, to exhibit that I do show knowledge. We've had situations where the chair has put forth motions and I've explained to the body how this needs to be conducted. As far as running the meeting goes, I mean, a lot of people know by now that I'm the state organizer for the Wisconsin Mises Caucus. I run meetings every month. Do they necessarily follow Roberts? No, because I don't need to, but we keep it orderly, we keep it professional, we get it through what we need to talk about. As far as disciplinary action goes, I'm firm but fair. If you're acting out of line, you're going to get called on it, and if it continues, you're going to be disciplined according to the process in place. But at the same time, I'm fair. It's not like I'm going to be holding people to one standard and other people to another standard. You are all going to be on equal footing as far as that goes if I'm in that role.
Thank you, Bryce. Tony, to you, how well versed are you at parliamentary procedure and presiding over meetings? How well are you able to keep a meeting cordial, and how will you discipline members for infractions during a meeting?
So I'm relatively well versed in parliamentary procedure. I'm certainly no parliamentarian, and I haven't been afraid to hire a parliamentarian. Like in New York, for example, when I was presiding over a convention, I hired a parliamentarian and brought them in. I believe keeping the meeting cordial doesn't start at the meeting. It starts well before, and starts with building those relationships. It's a lot harder to be cordial with somebody, to be disruptive in a meeting where you've got somebody who's fair and friendly with you. And it does start there. It still happens, but it does help keep it down. There are a lot of methods for de-escalating. When somebody gets disruptive, they usually just want to be heard and don't feel like they're being heard. So keeping the meeting running orderly and fairly is going to keep that to a minimum as well. A neutral point of order or a soft little gavel tap is going to help with the general correction. Making sure that if we're having some serious decorum violations, that it is called out by me, and I'm not being afraid to mute somebody's mic or calling somebody out of order. If somebody is getting disruptive to the point where we can't move on with the meeting, calling a recess to let cooler heads prevail is sometimes also the right answer. And all of those are things that I have experience doing and have worked very well for me.
Thank you, Tony. All right. You can also ask a question at ask.lpalliance.com. Next question is to you, Bryce. The vice chair is required to assist and cooperate with the chair in his duties. Will also need to work with other members of the national committee.
Did we already ask this?
Question?
I think this question has actually been answered.
I feel like we did.
I
this.
apologize.
Point of order.
Amanda's
Calling
out.
for orders of the day here.
Mr. Davis, you're out of order.
Minus 100 to Kyle for making me read something twice.
Motion
Well,
to-
here's a
motion
fun
to
one while I get
adjourn.
reoriented. Sorry.
Are we doing
All right. Bryce, who would win, 100 Bolsheviks or 100 libertarians?
100 libertarians easily. Not even close. Bolsheviks are great. What tends to get forgotten about the Bolshevik Revolution is they largely succeeded because Russia was still in the middle of World War I when that happened, and Russia had thought about pulling out of World War I, and there's actually some conversations between the U.S. and Russia and some goods that were given to the Russians to convince them to stay in. Had the Russians been able to pull out, the Bolshevik Revolution likely would have failed. So yes, 100 libertarians, 100 times out of 100.
Awesome. All right, Tony, to you, 100 Bolsheviks or 100 libertarians?
Definitely 100 libertarians. The 100 Bolsheviks are armed with state-of-the-art weapons from 1917 to 1921. 100 libertarians are going to have different guns that they got last week, and are going to be much better armed and have a lot better ammo. And they're going to be able to afford more of it because, free markets, as opposed to the communist breadlines that the Bolsheviks have been living with. So yeah, 100 libertarians every day.
Excellent. Thanks, Tony. Amanda, to you, 100 Bolsheviks or 100 libertarians?
I mean, the problem is that if you got 100 Bolsheviks, by the time it actually gets to the fighting, you've only got 10 of them because they've killed 90 of them. So, I mean, even by that standard, 100. Well, I guess it depends on what the battle is. Like, are we talking? Is it a battle for bad weapons? Is it a battle for ridiculous?
Are you worried that the
platitudes?
Bolsheviks might win a battle of wits?
No, I'm worried that the Bolsheviks might win a battle of saying ridiculous things like time is very important to history, which was literally a thing. Sorry, anyway. Yes, libertarians, by any measure in which people would want to win something, would win. However, we'd have to be careful because libertarians do need to be able to stand their ground on certain things. And we've seen libertarians that went up against Bolsheviks being unwilling to do this. Kronstadt being a perfect example. So if libertarians were in a fight with Bolsheviks, they would need to A, not make agreements with them that the Bolsheviks aren't going to keep, B, actually fight when they need to fight, take the mainland, it's good for you.
Thank you, Amanda. All right, do we have another question here? This one's to you, Tony. We all agree on the principle of liberty, but as vice chair, your job is growth. What is the specific numerical metric, whether it's donor count, funds raised, ballot access, or seats won, that you are willing to be held accountable for in 2 years? And what is your plan if we fail to hit it?
I think it's going to be multiple metrics, and so yes, donor count. Our donor count needs to go up. Our membership needs to rise by at least 50%. We need to get some of our members back. And I'm going to be calling libertarians, both those who have left the party, those who have lapsed from the party, but also those who are those potential libertarians who have been attracted to the party over the last several years and who we haven't followed up with well enough. So if we haven't grown by 50%, I'm going to see it as a failure, and I won't be running for re-election if we can't grow this party that much. We do need to raise a lot more funds. We are a Baroque party, but raising membership is going to help with that. We have a couple of states where we have some serious ballot access struggles. New York is everybody's best known example, but there are others where we have a lot of struggles there, and making sure we have 50 state access for our presidential candidate in 2028 has got to be a priority, which is one of the reasons why I'm proud to be a member of the Ballot Access Committee, because that's what we're working for. Those are the metrics that we need to be measured by. The number of candidates we have running and winning, our 50 state ballot access, and our membership.
Great. Thank you, Tony. Amanda, to you, your job is growth. What's the specific metric, donor count, funds raised, ballot access, seats won, that you're willing to be held accountable for in 2 years? And what's your plan if we fail to hit it?
So members are the lifeblood of the party. We need to get members back. And when I say members back, we need new members. We need to be recruiting people who are younger. We need to be recruiting people who are willing to be volunteers. That means that we need to be going toward more radical places as well. People who are willing to be involved in politics. I like 50%. It's a good number for membership growth. I would like to see us exceed it, however. Certainly ballot access across the country when it comes to the presidential election. And we need to be having down ballot candidates as well for a specific metric. I'd like to see seriously competitive down ballot races in, let's say, I would say 70% of the states where we actually have that ballot access. And that is the lowest bar. I'd like to see 100, in fact. 50% new member growth at least, and primarily from members who are going to be active volunteers, who are going to be working on canvassing legislation. We need to be getting major legislation passed in states. So this is going to be an evolving metric, but I'm looking at areas where we can actually see policy change and where we can see change in the numbers that we have in our growth.
Great. Thank you, Amanda. Bryce, to you, your job is growth. What's the specific metric, donor count, funds raised, ballot access, seats won that you're willing to be held accountable for in 2 years? And what's your plan if we fail to hit it?
I would say members and seats won are both metrics that I would like to be held by. And reinstituting and properly implementing Project Decentralized Revolution could achieve both. As state organizer, I routinely recruit people to the party. So within my state specifically, there's no reason we couldn't implement that on a national level and bring more people in. And part of Project Decentralized Revolution is focusing on local races, which are the ones that we have a lot better odds of winning. I think if we put a focus on membership recruitment and not just bringing them into the party, but getting them on the phone, figuring out what they're good at, what they're passionate about, getting them into those positions, and then running local candidates, we're going to see both go up easily. And yeah, so if in the event that I fail, I won't run again. Simple as that.
Thank you. All right. Next question is to Amanda. What is your opinion on the current state of our country?
Not good, and I apologize. So I like to zoom out and ask why things are the way that they are, as opposed to just what's going on. Two major things have gotten us here. In the first place, we have consistently treated, and when I say we, I mean the country at large, have consistently treated politics as being interest-based rather than ideological. This makes politics rudderless. It makes our two major parties held at the whim of elite policy demanders of specific interest groups that don't actually answer to individuals on the ground. Minor parties have a major role to play when it comes to making politics ideological again. What that does is it causes people to be more invested in political action and engagement in that process. It's good for us. What has also happened, however, is that partly as a result of politics becoming interest-based rather than ideological, we have seen people have a distaste for any type of political action and involvement. Good people say, well, that's not the type of thing that good people do. Good people aren't interested in politics. Good people don't get involved. Good people do other things with their time. Well, if all the good people are not involving themselves in politics, then who is? So we need to have a revival in this country when it comes to how people consider their role in the political process. That doesn't mean governance. That doesn't mean ruling over people. That means being people who are going to promulgate specific ideas and principles in the public square. It's a very noble thing. That we are where we are. We are in this rudderless, superficial state because of these things that have happened that have been very much to the advantage of the major parties and not at all to ours. So libertarians can be on the cusp of driving something incredible. We need to get our act together to do it. We need to be out there in front, and we need to be recruiting the people who are going to help us get there.
Thank you. Bryce, to you, what is your opinion on the current state of our country?
For my entire life, it has been not good. Any healthy society, including a libertarian one, needs two things: high trust and low time preference. And for a myriad of reasons, our current society is neither. They are low trust, high time preference. Our government has slowly bankrupted this country and made the dollar completely useless. There's foreign countries, or there's institutions advocating on behalf of foreign countries that have significant influence over our politicians, to the point where a lot of them don't really care about Americans at all. Notably, the obvious one in the room is Israel. And libertarians have the solution to all of that, which is to peel back the state, acknowledge property rights are absolute, and get the economy decentralized and away from the government. And I think that that's the role we should play in this current society.
Thank you, Bryce. Tony, to you, what is your opinion on the current state of our country?
Well, the current state of our country is a systemic failure of both competence and consent. Right now, we have a nation that, with a commander in chief that is doing whatever he wants on a whim, ruling by executive order, ruling with an iron fist, bankrupting our country with tariffs and with foreign wars. We've seen the impact of what has been done to this country at the gas pump this morning. It cost me $4.89 a gallon, and I know that it's much more expensive elsewhere to fill my tank. It cost me twice as much to fill my tank this morning as it did 6 months ago. And this is, a lot of this is because of the horrible overreach of the federal government, right? Undeclared wars, tariffs that are really just taxes on the people, government treating the fruits of our labors and our very identities as state assets to be managed rather than individual rights to be protected. We as libertarians need to be full-throated and bold in speaking up against these things, speaking up against the illegal proxy wars overseas, speaking up against the tariff, speaking up against crushing of the property rights and individual rights by the state. The state of the country is fragile. The solution isn't to burn it down, it's to give that bold and professional response. We need to be stable and principled and the ready leadership that can manage pulling this country out of its tailspin.
Thank you, Tony. All right, next question is to Bryce. As an officer of the party, you have a duty to uphold its rules. How versed are you on the bylaws of the party and the special rules and standing rules of the Libertarian National Committee?
Well, I'm currently on the bylaws committee, so I'm actually fairly well versed on that. And I'm also currently on the Libertarian National Committee, so I'm very well versed. I'm an alt, but I still have to pay attention, and I've participated quite a bit, Kyle. Thank you very much. And I'm also on the LNC, so I've had to pay attention pretty well to the special rules and standing rules of the committee as well. The policy and procedural manual is something that I've paid fairly close attention to, and I've had to utilize in my short tenure for reasons. So yeah, I'm very well versed and more than capable of upholding the rules.
Excellent. Thank you, Bryce. Tony, to you, the question is about the duty to uphold its rules. How well versed are you on the bylaws of the party and the rules of the Libertarian National Committee?
Well, I can honestly say I think I'm the only one of these candidates who isn't on the bylaws committee. So maybe they probably know them a little bit better, but I keep myself up to date on them as much as I can. And frankly, our bylaws are going to change a little bit in a week or two with this convention. The members are going to be voting on several bylaws changes and amendments, and I've read through them all and given my opinion on all those. So right now, I'd say I'm probably more well versed in the bylaws than I ever have been. But having said that, I can't say I'd be 100% perfect on quoting what's Section 4, Article 3. You know, I'm not going to be that good, but I certainly am fully capable of upholding the bylaws. I know them pretty well. Same with the special rules and the standing rules. I've read through the policy manual. I know that pretty well. And I'm certainly more than capable of following bylaws and policy manuals as I did as chair in New York, as I do as a board member in Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Tony. Amanda, same question to you. It's about the duty to uphold rules. How well versed are you on the bylaws of the party and the rules of the Libertarian National Committee?
pretty well versed. As Bryce said, yes, we're both on the bylaws committee, and I have also helped to organize a series of member-based bylaw proposals as well, using the current bylaws as a template, as the framework, and then talking with members, spent the past year doing that, about the changes that they want to see at the national level, so that we've been able to put together a sort of member bylaw report that we're working very hard to get heard on the floor of Grand Rapids. And what I'm telling people is that, look, you don't have to like everything that's in it, but what we do think is that the members should have their voices heard at Grand Rapids with these changes that we've talked about for the better part of a year. You can vote for me without voting for those changes, but they are something that I think would make the party a much stronger party. As for the current bylaws and rules, know them very well. One thing that I'm not as well versed in is the policy manual. That's more subject to change. The chair candidates that I've spoken with, however, seem to believe that that policy manual is in need of pretty significant revisions. So that's going to be something that I'm going to be working on very closely with the chair in the weeks ahead, is talking about, okay, what do we need to change to make the Libertarian Party's policies more functional and more nimble, more able to get us where we need to go.
Great. Thank you, Amanda. Next question, please. And if you want to ask a question, go to ask.lpalliance.com. Tony, this question is to you. As an officer, you have a duty to provide full support to the presidential and vice presidential candidates chosen by the party. What does full support mean to you? What steps or plans do you have to help give full support to the party's candidates while acting as vice chair?
Well, this is a term where we don't have a national candidate until the very, very, very last day of the term at the next convention in 2028. So, I mean, God willing, I'll be on the committee then too. But I'm going to answer this as if we were. Full support means you are vocally supporting the candidates. You are financially supporting the candidates as a party. I'm not asking every member of the LNC to donate to our candidate. It'd be nice if you did, but I'm certainly not going to commit that. But the LNC has a duty to financially support the presidential and vice presidential candidate chosen by the Libertarian Party, and not a different presidential candidate. I can tell you that I am one of the people who filed an appeal to the Judicial Committee concerning the Joint Fundraising Committee with RFK. That was completely a wrong move for the Libertarian Party to make, and I said so. And we should not be doing that. We need to make sure that we are providing financial support to our presidential and vice presidential candidate, but also full-throated support in all 50 states and in DC. For our candidate, making sure we're saying vote for our candidate, not vote for our candidate in blue states. Vote for our candidate, period. That's what full support means. Full support in all 50 states. Full financial support in all 50 states.
Great. Thank you, Tony. Amanda, to you. What steps or plans do you have to give full support to the party's presidential and vice presidential candidates while acting as vice chair?
So again, one thing, and we did try to put this more clearly in the member bylaws that we're proposing, we need to be very clear that if you're in charge of a state affiliate, you're getting that president and vice presidential candidate on the ballot, but as if at all possible. And there are some situations in which it's not. As vice chair, I want to make it so that it is in all 50 states. We need that ballot access. So the role is to make sure that those candidates get on the ballot, that we don't have these joint fundraising committees with other parties, that we don't get ourselves into sticky financial situations. Broaden it out to candidates generally, though. I talked about this a little bit earlier. We need to be supporting our candidates before, during, and after the election. For candidates, since this question did also ask just candidates, for candidates that are elected, we need policy teams that are able to work with them to come up with a policy agenda that is germane to the issues they ran on, germane to the issues of their constituency, and make sure that that can get promoted as well. That happens at all levels, but it's a place where the national level can lead and then help the states to actually mechanize it, put it into action. When it comes to president, vice president, there's not really a gray area. Full support. Officers are endorsing publicly those presidential and vice presidential candidates, and we are not tolerating anyone who does not do that as an officer of the party.
Thank you, Amanda. Bryce, to you, what steps or plans do you have to help give full support to the party's presidential and vice presidential candidates while acting as vice chair?
So full support to me obviously would include financial support. If we have a candidate, we should be throwing our support behind them. I would include in that, making sure that we're routinely having conversations with them, figuring out what is a candidate they hope to achieve, and commit to doing what is necessary to make that occur. I don't know, like, if you're publicly supporting a candidate, but you're not supporting them behind the scenes, you're not really actually supporting them. If you're going to have one or the other, I would rather like have the behind the scenes support than going on your social media accounts and saying I endorse X, but then you're not doing anything with them to achieve any of their goals while being a candidate. So I would say having routine communication with them, or at least attempting to, and giving financial aid when asked.
Excellent. Thank you, Bryce. All right, next question, please. All right, Amanda, to you. If you become vice chair, will you allow millions of dollars to get spent on frivolous ventures or demand principled monetary responsibility? Should the LNC have any role in other parties or with pushing the LP into a position that does not serve our duty to serve individual liberty for all?
No, that's an easy one. So that I'll go back since I answered the easy question. One thing that also support involves is getting our candidates on national debate stages with major party candidates. I wanted to throw that in there because it completely slipped my mind. If I become VC, will I allow millions of dollars to get spent on frivolous ventures? No. And when we see that happening, if we see that happening, it's going to be a big problem. We need to have a clear audit. We need to have something like a line item budget. We need to be accountable to the members on what we're spending, when we're spending it, what were the competitors, why do we choose a particular organization or contractor and not others. This is where transparency and accountability really come into play. Should the LNC have any role in other parties with pushing the LP into a position that doesn't serve our agenda? No. I can understand if we want to engage in issue coalitions with issue groups. That's very different than aligning blanket with a political party or saying, we're going to err on the side of aligning with you and then maybe break with you on a few things. We shouldn't be doing this with political parties. We should be doing this with, again, on the ground, smaller issue coalitions. That's a yes. That's a way to really grow. That's a way to get members. Partying and trying to hobnob with elites and policymakers is not the way forward when it comes to actually serving liberty. We need to be true to our principles, not kind of be a backdoor for another party to get in and have their way with us. Sorry for being graphic.
Thank you, Amanda. All right, Bryce, to you. Complex question. Will you allow millions of dollars to get spent on frivolous ventures or demand principled monetary responsibility? Also, should the LNC have any role in other parties or with pushing the LP into a position that does not serve our duty to serve individual liberty for all?
So the bottom question I could answer right away and just say no. The top question, I'll take it a step further. Actually, I don't think we should be financially irresponsible in any regard. I'm not necessarily as opposed to meeting with legislators and trying to get them to push pro-liberty bills or oppose anti-liberty bills. I think, if there's a financial cost, that so be it. Not at the expense of our principles, I would say, but until we have elected officials in the federal government, that's really going to be the only way we're going to get federal legislation passed the way we desire, is going to be to meet with legislators. But we should be doing everything that we're doing at the national level with financial responsibility, not just frivolous ventures, as it was worded.
Great. Thank you, Bryce. Tony, to you, the question disappeared. And all right, will you allow millions of dollars to get spent on frivolous ventures or demand principled monetary responsibility? Should the LNC have any role in other parties or with pushing the LP into a position that does not serve our duty to serve individual liberty for all?
So I don't know how I would allow millions of dollars to get spent on frivolous ventures, because we don't have millions of dollars. Responsibility is something we preach to the government, and we should be preaching it inside our party. We need to have every penny accounted for where possible. We need a good, responsible budget, especially as we're trying to pull out of a financial tailspin. The second part of this question is actually a little more complicated for me, and I'm going to tell you why. So the short answer is no, but there is one caveat, and only one caveat, that I would give here. When I was in New York, we had a significant ballot access change, thanks to our lovely Governor Cuomo. We teamed up with the Green Party, the Working Families Party, to sue the state for ballot access. Third parties banding together for ballot access that benefits all of us, including the Libertarian Party, does serve individual liberty, and it does serve us to work with them on that. Beyond that, working with organizations and issue coalitions is something that the Libertarian Party has done for a long time. Defend the Guard, we've worked with Normal, we've worked with GOA. We've done these things, and we should continue to do those things rather than trying to influence other parties or allowing them to influence us.
Thank you, Tony. All right, next question, please. This one is to Bryce. You recently were asked about parliamentary procedure, but I've seen how quickly a lack of institutional knowledge can paralyze our progress. Can you walk us through a specific time you've successfully used Robert's rules or party bylaws to resolve a major conflict and keep a project on track?
I haven't had that much ability to utilize this, but I had actually brought up an example earlier. There was a motion that our chair here in the state of Wisconsin or two motions actually, that he was putting forward. And obviously, per rules of order, the chair can't be residing over the meeting as chair while they're making a motion. So I walked through the process, and Amanda could attest to this, the process for passing the gavel over, handling the procedure, how our vice chair should handle the procedure during that time, and then returning the gavel. That's probably the only experience I've had at actually applying any ability with Roberts and whatnot. But I'd also say it's a fairly concrete example of knowing what I'm doing if I were elected vice chair.
Great. Thank you, Bryce. Tony, to you, can you walk us through a specific time you've successfully used Robert's rules or party bylaws to resolve a major conflict and keep a project on track?
Yeah, absolutely. We had a member in our party in New York while I was chair who was threatening to take down the entire party with this fraud. Specifically, he was representing himself as a Libertarian Party across the state and just handing out nominations to whoever was paying him the most money. And we had proof of this. We had the receipts. So We did have he was also one of our county chairs. And there were two people complicit. I'm talking about one person, but really it was two because the county secretary was also complicit in this. We had a procedure in our bylaws to remove somebody from the party. And as chair, first it required notice that had to be mailed and sent certified and wait for give him some time to respond, to which he did, and give him time to respond to a hearing that we scheduled, which we did. He sent a response and had a spokesperson go through that. The hearing itself was an executive session, so I won't go into all the details of that, except the one detail I can share is that I passed the gavel. I was not the chair during that executive session because it was important that I lead by example and talk about the specific infractions and why I was calling for this. Now, we did not allow ourselves to vote during the session. You're not allowed. So coming out of executive session, I did not take the gavel back. I instead made the motion to apply the disciplinary action of removing him as chair and his secretary as secretary. And they were loud and they were squeaky. Now they were still squeaky for a while, and they were very angry and they threatened lawsuits. Ultimately, they didn't, because we did everything by the book and by the bylaws, and their ire was directed at me, the chair, because that's where the buck stops, with the chair. I didn't let anybody else take that bullet. I took the bullet for that. I took that. So that's how I kept the party moving along and resolved a major conflict.
Excellent. Thank you, Tony. To you, Amanda, can you walk us through a specific time you've successfully used Robert's rules or party bylaws to resolve a major conflict and keep a project on track?
So this happens on the more micro level with the International Alliance of Libertarian Parties, because a lot of the countries, the member countries, are not as familiar with Roberts, which we do use. So a lot of times it does fall to U.S. members on the board to be the Roberts babysitters, which is not a role that I like to have. Fortunately, Lana does a better job of that. But recently, the Libertarian Party of Wisconsin had its convention, and as anyone who's been to a state convention knows, those can be very, very in the weeds and intricate. I was secretary, I was doing minutes at the time, but there were also moments, especially when it came to bylaw revisions, where we needed to stop and make sure that things were being heard appropriately. There was a particular time where we noted an error in the way that a proposal had been worded, and there was a discussion that ensued as to whether an error needed to be voted on in terms of its emendation, or whether it could just simply be flagged as a scrivener error, and what that meant. I was able to, again, with others, figure out what needed to happen and keep things running smoothly, rather than getting in the weeds and stalling and making a lengthy process even lengthier. So fortunately, I haven't had any huge parliamentary battles yet, but I have been equipped to deal with those.
Great. Thank you, Amanda. Next question, please. This one goes to Tony. As an officer, you also have a duty to fulfill the aims of the party, such as to elect libertarians to public office. What do you think is the best way to go about doing such? How will you help implement such policies as vice chair?
Our biggest asset as a party is our communications platform. Our access to national media and state and local media, our access to a very large social media presence, and quite a large network of media contact. The best way to get our libertarian candidates, big L libertarian candidates elected, is to get them in front of their newspapers and get them not only some access to media, but some media training. I think we need to, as a party, have better and more plentiful candidate training. We used to do it. We need to go back to doing it. We also need to provide them as much financial support as we can. One of the ways we can help with that is to help them get in front of the media and get talking to people. I am in full support of making sure that our social media and our regular media dedicate significant time to our candidates and continue to dedicate specific time specifically to candidates who are running as libertarians, especially where they have a good chance of winning. That's how we get people into office, by getting them in front of the people and making sure they have the funding.
Thank you, Tony. Amanda, to you, what do you think is the best way to go about electing libertarians to public office, and how will you help implement such policies as vice chair?
I've said this a few times. The fact that we only care about our candidates right when the election's happening, and maybe we send out a tweet or two in their favor, is an egregious oversight. Before the election happens, we need to be working with the candidate on the ground. This has to begin both with state and national working with one another, or the locality and national working with one another, because what needs to happen is we need to be coordinating on policy. What's your platform? What are you running on? How are you framing those issues to the constituents? Is that working? Do you have media training? I've both done and conducted media training sessions. It is extremely important. There are things that you can easily get right and easily get very wrong. This needs to be standard for all of our candidates doing candidate training. The media, we need to, again, be networking with states, making sure that candidates are getting out in public for good reasons, getting in the press for good reasons. And afterward, candidates need to be working with a policy team that's able to come up with how an agenda can be implemented. It's no use getting libertarians elected to office if after they get in office, they're not governing like libertarians, or they're lost in terms of what policies to actually fight for. This is something that a party is meant to do. It's not only about running the candidate, it is about making the candidate an effective vehicle for what our agenda is. And that's one of the things that I'm very, very adamant about fighting for as vice chair.
Thank you, Amanda. Bryce, to you, what do you think is the best way to go about getting libertarians elected to public office, and how will you help implement such policies as vice chair?
Sure. So I have mentioned a couple different things that are very effective at doing that. One is focusing on elections where we can actually have a feasible chance at winning, which is the local races. We actually just had an individual in Wisconsin by the name of Brian Dafferding, who by the skin of his teeth won his local race. But also communication is absolutely key. You need to be, it's not enough to just to give the candidate money. You do need to be communicating with them. You do need to be figuring out, like, okay, what are you trying to do here? What do you want to get done? And what is the best way for us to do that for you? So that I'm on candidate support committee currently. I actually am missing a meeting tonight to do this. Unfortunately, it's the first one I've missed since getting on. But yeah, that's, I think, communication, and then focusing on given our financial situation, given our standing within American politics, identifying where we can actually, like, meaningful local seats where we can actually win, and then going balls to the walls to make it happen.
Great. Thank you, Bryce. All right, next question, please.
This one seems like a gimme, but
all right, Amanda, for you, who did you vote for in the last presidential election?
I voted for Chase Oliver in the last presidential election. I don't have 2 minutes for that. That's the answer.
All right, Bryce, to you. Who did you vote for in the last presidential election?
I didn't. That's the answer. I did not vote in the last presidential election.
Okay. Thank you. Tony, who did you vote for in the last presidential election?
Well, not only did I vote for Chase Oliver, I worked as his Pennsylvania state coordinator and the Mid-Atlantic regional director for the Chase Oliver campaign. I voted for Chase Oliver. I was always going to vote for the Libertarian candidate.
Excellent. Thank you. I voted for Chase too, just for the record. And all right, next question, please.
Can I read
Bryce,
this
this
one?
is to you.
You
As an
already-
officer, sorry, what?
Did we already just do this? We did this, didn't we?
I'm sorry.
We did do this one.
Yes,
Kyle!
you did.
Kyle, stop messing me up, Kyle.
Dilatory.
Give me the right question, please.
Someone's got to make Free look bad. He can't do it himself.
All right, Bryce, to you. The vice chair is required to represent state affiliates who are not part of a regional agreement. What steps will you take to best represent those affiliates on the national level? What will you do to ensure that you know what the needs of those affiliates are?
Again, that comes back to communication. As a Region 1 alternate, in the short time that I've spent on the LNC, that has been my primary focus because I'm the second alternate for Region 1, so I don't get to vote very often. So my role has been communicating with chairs and state parties, and I've kept them up to date on situations that have been going on in the party. I would continue that role as vice chair. Whatever states are regionless, I'm going to be communicating with them, and in that, I'm going to be asking, hey, what do you need from us? If they don't think they need anything, well, then there's not a ton we can do about that. But I'm going to put forth an honest effort at making sure that our affiliates that choose not to be in a region are properly represented.
Great. Thank you, Bryce. Tony, to you. What steps will you take to best represent those affiliates that are not part of a regional agreement on the national level? And what will you do to ensure that you know what the needs of those affiliates are?
Yeah, this is one of the most difficult parts of the vice chair job, because not only is the vice chair is elected by the whole party and represents every single libertarian, whether they like him or not. But also they are the Region 0 regional rep. So to make sure that they are best represented, one, I'm going to vote my conscience and make sure that we are growing the party nationally. So if they are regionalists by choice, they won't want to be next time. But number two, I'm going to represent them and make sure that their views are heard as much as I possibly can. And I'll do that by communicating with them, just like I'll be communicating with every single state chair. I will give them a little bit more attention because they have no other representation on the LNC. They're represented by the vice chair. They don't have a regional rep. And really, I'm hoping that there aren't any states like this in this term, but there probably will be. So I'm going to make sure it's going to be communication and voting my conscience and making sure we have a party that they want to be a more active part of come 2028.
Great. Thank you, Tony. Amanda, to you, what steps will you take to best represent those affiliates that are not part of a regional agreement on the national level? And what will you do to ensure that you know the needs of those affiliates?
So I'll be on my soapbox for a little bit and give you the ideal answer, which is that I think we need to listen to the states that are, at least more than any time that I can remember, more states are trying to go regionless. And the reason for that is pretty simple. Really, the good arguments that I've heard are not even good arguments for being in a region. A lot of times is they get weaponized. It's, I need to be in this region so that the other faction that I don't like doesn't exploit a region against me. And so when that's the reason that's most often given for aligning with a region, we're selling the party short. So ideally, regions should have states that represent themselves. We should not have regions. We should have states that are able to, on the national level, speak up and have their voices heard. That will require restructuring meetings, as well as the LNC, to make them more member-centric and to make them go smoother, to move more debate online, the same model as Georgia and New York have with, they both have very large executive committees, but they're able to get through meetings quickly. So that's something that ideally would happen. As for representing states, regionless states, again, I want to give them the opportunity to represent themselves, but if you're dealing with me as a full-time vice chair, then you are getting calls. I'm asking you, what do you need from national? What might you need from national if national are willing to provide it? Because a lot of times when we talk with states, They say, well, I don't feel heard by national, so I check out and I don't care what's going on with national. That shouldn't be the reason you don't care. National should be a resource for the states. It should be hub and spoke. It should not be just top down. It should be distributed. So we need to make sure that national is coordinating and helping with states. And I am one of the first lines for that. There's going to be a lot of contact. There's going to be a lot of asking what's going on, what candidates are you running, what issues might be coming up on the legislative level that are similar to issues that are coming up on the legislative level in other states. Can we make a national campaign about that? Can we make coalitions around that? These are wonderful opportunities.
Excellent. Thank you, Amanda. Next question, please. This one goes to Tony. What is something that the previous vice chair did that you wish to continue? And what is something you wish to change?
That is a great question, and I love it. One of the things that I love about our current vice chair, Paul Dar, and I'm assuming that's who we're referring to in this question, was make it very easy to contact him. Hey, here's my calendar. Find some time on it. I have done that a couple times. Made sure I got some FaceTime with Paul, and had conversations about national issues and even regional issues that we've had. I don't know that there's a whole lot that I would change that he has done. I think that he has been a lot of more of a background player than I would be. I'm a little more vocal and a little more out front and maybe a little more outgoing than Paul is, and I would continue that. So that would be a change. But I think that he has done a fine job in starting to help our party heal from some of the pain of the past.
Excellent. Thank you, Tony. And a shout out to the great Paul Dar. He's done an amazing job. And this one's to you, Amanda. What is something that the previous vice chair did that you wish to continue? What is something you wish to change?
One thing that Paul has been great about is hosting AMA sessions. Ask Me Anything, where he has been available to the members to talk with them, to hear their concerns, and to respond to them, hopefully to bring them to the LNC. I'm with Tony in that I'm very outspoken, and so I probably would try to be more out front. But one thing that I want to change is I just want there to be more opportunities for members to get their voices heard, period. So as vice chair, if I am member oriented and I am very much all about making members the protagonist of the Libertarian Party, then I am going to be working very closely with individuals that have already sought out, already talked with about creating definitive opportunities for members to be involved. Again, we can have an app where members are able to put down what are their interests, what is their area, where are they locally, what types of gatherings or activities would they be interested in, whether it's canvassing, whether it's legislative advocacy, whether it's testifying, whether it's demonstrating, getting signatures, and then they can see and they can post events that are going on in their area. It's a great way for members to be invested in their party. So that's one thing that I would do differently or change is I would just be creating more of those opportunities and also working to create opportunities for members to be elevated to the national level on subcommittees with very clearly cut roles. We have a lot of very talented people in this party who can be issue experts and who can use their comparative advantage to the party's advantage. This is what clearly defined committees would allow them to do. We need to have multiple faces of the party that are able to speak to multiple groups in the US. And so again, I'm about creating those opportunities.
Excellent. Thank you, Amanda. Bryce, to you, what is something that the previous chair did that you wish to continue? And what is something you wish to change?
So when he's had to step into the role of presiding over a meeting, I think he's done a fairly decent job at running those meetings, and I wish to live up to that ability. There's a couple things that I would change. One of them being I would probably abstain a lot less. I understand why abstain is an option and why it exists. I'm not a huge fan of using it unless I'm like very, very specific circumstances. So you probably will know where I stand on positions, regardless of whether it's popular or not. Beyond that, I've done this as state organizer for the Mises Caucus, and I would do this as vice chair. I will be reaching out to members, especially when they first get into the party, and figure out where we can fit them in this movement and get them going.
Excellent. Thank you, Bryce. Next question, please. This one will go to Amanda. For all of them, how would you maximize minority involvement in the party and get as many non-whites and non-males as possible? The LP is lacking in these demographics, as noted by John McAfee.
All around, we need to be doing more member recruitment. I honestly think that we can be recruiting a more diverse group of libertarians if we stick to our principles and we campaign and go out on those, because we have principles that do appeal to people who have been systemically disenfranchised. The Native community is a huge example of this. We should be having Indigenous affiliates. There's no reason that we don't. We should be able to have First Nations be involved in the Libertarian Party as actual affiliates. As for getting individuals from various demographic groups involved in the party, we have issues that can speak to them. And I'm not going to stand and speak for them, but this is a place where just coming at this from a place of what our principles are, what our platform is, can go a long way. Having different faces out there is a big part of it as well. We've got lots of, as I was saying in the previous question, great spokespeople for liberty that we should be taking advantage of that can appeal to diverse cohorts. I can appeal to the cool hair cohort, I guess. But this is where having members be more elevated on the national stage comes into play. We do have a diverse array of members. We have to give them more of a voice so that we can get a lot of new libertarian voices into our party and our movement as well.
Thank you, Amanda. Bryce, to you, how would you maximize minority involvement in the party and get as many non-whites and non-males as possible?
So I think we should be maximizing member involvement in general, and that's going to come through reaching out to them, figuring out what they're passionate about, and getting them set up with the ability to succeed. I don't necessarily care as much about the demographic makeup of the party. I think if we have principled libertarian messaging and proof of concept and continued success within party politics, I think the demographics will come, but the specific makeup of the party, just from a demographic standpoint, just isn't a concern for me. We're a philosophically based party, and the people that should be in the party are people that are philosophically aligned, and if they happen to be of the same demographic, then it is what it is.
Thank you, Bryce. Tony, to you, how would you maximize minority involvement in the party and get as many non-whites and non-males as possible?
Well, this is something that I've done especially while petitioning, making sure that I'm speaking to a diverse audience, because we're talking about philosophical liberty and abstract liberty, and those are things that we as libertarians are really good at talking about. But for many non-white and non-male voters, the state isn't just a theoretical nuisance. It's a direct daily obstacle. And we're going to grow naturally with non-white and non-male voters, and even with white and male voters, hopefully with everybody, by focusing on those pain points where government overreach is most felt: economic barriers, systemic justice, systemic bigotry, making sure that we are calling out that we are standing with anybody, regardless of what their demographic makeup is, regardless of what they look like, regardless of what their gender is, making sure that they know that we are a home for them and their liberty. No matter who they are or where they stand. If they are libertarians, if they are interested in advancing the ideals of liberty, we stand with them.
Great. Thank you, Tony. Kyle asked behind the scenes if we're all okay with a few extra questions. If you're not, just put it in the chat and we'll land the plane at some point here. Next question. What's that?
I said we'll shame you. We'll call him out.
Next question. Yeah. Next question is to Bryce. What groups or organizations are you currently associated with? How will you balance your responsibilities to the party as vice chair with your responsibilities to those organizations?
I'm assuming non-libertarian based organizations. The only ones I'm involved with outside of Libertarian Party centered stuff is I'm a member of Young Americans for Liberty, and I'm a deeply devoted Catholic, so I'm a member of the Catholic Church. I think it's pretty easy. I've been able to do it already. Yale, I'm really only called upon when they need me to go to the nearby college campuses and recruit. And the Catholic Church, I mean, my obligations are my obligations. I have done a great job at not overextending myself in that regard and participating as I'm able to, so that I can give more time to the Libertarian Party. But it's fairly easy, actually, to balance my work with those organizations in here.
Thank you, Bryce. Tony, to you, what groups or organizations are you currently associated with, and how will you balance your responsibility to the party as vice chair with your responsibilities to those organizations?
Well, primarily, I'm involved in presently with the Libertarian Party of Pennsylvania, both as a county chair, which would not be so demanding, and I wouldn't give that up, and that would be fine. And as affiliate support chair, which I would probably back away from. I would turn the chairmanship over to a member of my committee who has been a leader on the committee, really been my right hand. So I've already done the work of building that bench and making sure that we're building that. Anything else I've been involved in has direct affiliation and impact with the Libertarian Party. So it really wouldn't be a problem balancing any of this stuff. Making sure I have a few minutes for my family at the end of every day, and can sit down and have a meal with them every once in a while would be nice. But they know that I'm a libertarian, and well, frankly, they're libertarians too, so they get it. It won't be a problem.
Great. Thank you, Tony. Amanda, to you, what groups or organizations are you currently associated with, and how will you balance your responsibility to the party as vice chair with your responsibility to those organizations?
Being a part of this movement is the privilege of a lifetime, and I want to spend my life doing it. What that means is that things are integrated. So as I still continue to be a first mover in LPAlliance, I'm still more of a public face in LPAlliance, I intend to continue doing that. And sometimes that will mean being a critic of what's going on in the LNC and listening to criticisms of what's going on in the LNC. That's going to help my role as vice chair. Similarly, when it comes to representing and working with other countries, representing the interests of the US Libertarian Party and the policies and the principles of the US Libertarian Parties, and working with other countries, that's going to help serve our role internationally as well, and the work that we can do in spreading liberty with other growing parties that are also part of this movement, fighting back against global totalitarianism. When it does come to the spending committee that makes spending decisions for LPAlliance, I do intend to resign as president to avoid any perception of conflict of interest. I am going to continue on as secretary of LP Wisconsin. However, I don't intend to seek re-election for that. Apart from that, balance is, I'm going to resist the urge to make some wordplay here. I do yoga, and I intend to get my teacher certification sometime this year or next year. I find that that helps me do more and helps me to be more grounded in everything that I'm working on. So apart from that, it's about integration, and it's about making sure that I am at the sharpest that I can be.
Great. Thank you, Amanda. Next question, please. This one goes to Tony. With so many positions within the Libertarian Party, why are running for LNC vice chair and not at large or a state position?
Well, fun fact, at this year's LPPA convention, I was nominated for chair. And I did run for it. And I would not have run for this position had I won that, but also we have a good chair in Pennsylvania. I'm glad Greg Deal won. Because I am passionate about helping the party more broadly than just Pennsylvania. Yes, I'm obviously passionate about helping in Pennsylvania, which is why I'll still be involved in Pennsylvania. I'll still be involved with the affiliate support here. But more broadly, my expertise and my experience in multiple states in leadership positions, not only in Pennsylvania, but also New York, makes me an asset to the national party. And I'd like to bring this experience to the national party. Why LNC vice chair and not at large? Because I am one of the people, a smaller number of people in this country that does have that state chair experience, that does have that executive experience of running a party. So knowing what is involved there and what's important there. I've gotten it done in New York. I've worked with the board in Pennsylvania as well. So I know what it takes to be a vice chair at this level. So that's why I'm running for this position specifically.
Great. Thank you, Tony. Amanda, to you, with so many positions within the Libertarian Party, why are you running for LNC vice chair and not an at-large or state position?
Sure. And first, this is for Kyle, who commented in the chat that conflict of interest is a neocon concept. I would like to say that all of my conflicts are interesting. But why am I not running for another position? So I believe that at-larges should be state representatives. So in that sense, I don't exactly feel like at-large is a good fit if I don't quite believe that the position of at-large is best suited to the party. State representatives elected by their states would be better. That said, I believe in being vice chair because, first of all, I want to be vice chair. So often we hear people who say, I don't really want to do this, but I'm doing it because I feel like I have to. I'm doing it because of sunk costs. I'm doing it because I've already put in the time. I have a vision for this party. It doesn't mean that I can execute it alone. It doesn't even mean that I can think it up alone. I need help from people. I need assistance from as many members as I can possibly get helping to steer this party. And I intend to represent them. I intend to represent their interests. You kind of have to have a little bit of arrogance to run for any kind of position like this. I do think I have the talent to serve in this position. I do think I have the temperament to serve in this position. And I have the ideas, at least in their nascent stage, to do really good things with the direction of this party if I am also able to work with the membership, if I'm able to build relationships with them, and if I'm able to continue to represent them. So it's a scale question, it's a vision question, and it is a desire question. I want to do this.
Thank you, Amanda. Bryce, to you, with so many positions within the Libertarian Party, why are you running for LNC vice chair and not an at-large or state position?
So state position, because there's currently not state elections going on. I ran for chair last year. I'm currently serving as a district rep in my state party. Why not at large? Because I'm very passionate about what I believe is the best direction for the Libertarian Party. And I don't think somebody else. There's a bit of arrogance with that, similar to what Amanda said. I don't think somebody else can do what or advocate what I want to do in better than I can. And I think that while I would love if we had more leaders in the party, I think I can be one of those leaders, and I think that this is a great spot for me to be in right now.
Thank you, Bryce. Next question, please. This one's going to Amanda. Do you have any financial interests, big donors, or investments to declare?
I wish I did. According to at least some parts of the internet, it's George Soros is one of them, also Antifa, also the CIA, also NATO. No, none. Fortunately or otherwise, I have investments in cryptocurrency, and those have served me well. But apart from that, no.
Thank you, Amanda. Bryce, to you, do you have any financial interest, big donors, or investments to declare?
My job doesn't count, so no. I work night shift in healthcare. That is my source of income. No, I have no massive donors coming my way. I'm in no massive financial interest to conflict with my duties in the Libertarian Party.
Excellent. Thank you, Bryce. Tony, to you, do you have any financial interests, big donors, or investments to declare?
I wish I knew where the crypto whales were hiding, because I'd be sending them over to the Libertarian Party. No, I don't have any financial interests, big donors, or investments to declare outside of my extremely modest 401k.
Thank you, Tony. Next question, please. This one goes to Bryce.
All right. This round is one to each person. So
Okay. Then maybe it's not going to Bryce. We'll see.
Yeah, that
well, I've got one for each
Bryce.
one of them.
There we go.
So, yep.
All right, Bryce, this one's for you. If you truly believe that the 19th Amendment has done more harm than good, how do you intend to serve as an officer of a political party that has a large number of women involved and that values the rights of all individuals?
Yeah, well, I actually addressed this earlier. I don't think voting is a right. With that said, women have the same rights as anybody else, and that would be negative rights, freedom from the government, freedom, property rights, stuff of that nature. I work with plenty of women in the Libertarian Party. This is not an issue. I just don't think, and this applies to a litany of groups, not even just women. I don't think universal suffrage has been a good thing. I don't think democracy is a good thing. I'm an anarcho-capitalist who's very, very opposed to democracy. I don't think that there's a libertarian society where democracy is even feasible within libertarian framework. So I'm more than capable of representing all individuals and simultaneously believing that voting is not a right.
Thank you, Bryce. The next question is...
You got to tell me for who.
Well, Tony's next. Tony, the question is in relation to reports of rushing affiliate formation in the state of Pennsylvania. How many of the affiliates has he formed during his tenure are still active?
So I would say that of the 5 affiliates that have formed during my tenure, one of them is marginally active. I'm working directly with them to keep them active, and they were my first one, and they were rushed in my opinion. We really wanted to hit the ground running. We thought we had a much better foundation. We learned from that, so we moved slower. And by the way, count my own affiliate, which was formed before I was affiliate support chair. That's 6. So that's 6 out of 7. There have been 2 other affiliates that we've considered forming that we've had working groups with on the ground that I thought we have been close with, that we didn't form, that we did not push to form in Crawford County and in L County, because we didn't want to rush it, because we wanted to make sure that they had that good base. We're not rushing things. We might have done it the first time. We might have done it one time. but everyone else, we have done a really good job in forming lasting affiliates in Pennsylvania. By the way, I was also on the affiliate support committee in New York, where we were building a party from scratch in 2019, and we built affiliates in about half of our counties. So I have a lot of experience in building affiliates that last and parties that last.
Great. Thank you, Tony. This next question is to Amanda. You frequently talk about the need for radicalism and solidarity. How will you work with more moderate in belief or pragmatists in action, libertarians, and advance the libertarian voter and donor base to grow beyond just libertarian radicals? How will you represent them and their interests?
That's a great question. I've been fortunate to work with folks in LPAlliance who are on the more moderate or more pragmatic side in terms of like the pragmatist caucus. I've also been fortunate to work with folks who are more on the radical side like me. And I think if you're dealing with people who have different modes of advocating for liberty, which is what I believe that caucuses are about, they're about having different ways of advancing our agenda and our platform. First, you ask them to represent themselves, represent yourself to me. Tell me what is going to be best in terms of how to put our agenda forward. That said, as I've talked about a couple times during this debate, comparative advantage is a very important thing for me. So if we've got members who are on the more pragmatist caucus side, on the more moderate side, policy agendas and candidate support are great ways for them to shine. They're not going to be relegated there, but that is where I found they tend to gravitate naturally in a lot of cases. So one thing that I've been talking with a member of LPAlliance about is, in fact, having a policy committee that is able to debate different ways of getting our principles actualized in policy. And this is, I think, a great role for people who are more pragmatic. They have a wonderful role to play when it comes to supporting candidates, when it comes to promoting policy agendas. Again, they're not going to be relegated there, but the best thing to do is just to see where people feel like they can make the most impact for advancing liberty and give them opportunities to do it. I actually don't think that everyone on the LNC should be a radical. I am, but I think that you need balance. You need people to, just like I said earlier, I'm impatient. I need people to kind of be a rudder sometimes. You also need people to advocate for more moderate measures, even if it ends in disagreement, even if I'm never going to agree. That is helpful because it allows you to drill down to the core of your principles. So I believe in giving people voice.
Thank you. All right. The next question, you have 3 minutes to answer. This is going to Tony. Do you have a fundraising strategy or a plan for one? Do you have a communication strategy or a plan for one? And do you have a member recruiting strategy or a plan for one?
I do. And all three of them. I have the beginnings of a fundraising strategy, and it's very simple. Call people. Call our traditional donors. The work that we're doing. If they want to see more, come back to them in 6 months. Try it again. That's how we're going to get the big people back. The smaller money asks, throwing some small money asks in some of our social media posts, doing the money bombs every once in a while. Not too many of those, because most people on social media are looky-loos and not going to donate. But by making those asks on a regular but infrequent basis, we're going to get the small money donors, and making sure that we include the asks in our emails. The communication strategy is going to be very platform focused, very candidate focused. So very much focused on our principles and making sure that we are not only promoting candidates and being the political party that we're supposed to be, but also being the educational organization that we have to be, because we need to sometimes teach the American public what a libertarian is, so they don't just think that we're a Republican that likes weed or a Democrat that wants guns. Member recruitment strategy, again, I'm going to call them. I'm going to get out and talk to them. Now, a lot of that member recruitment is going to have to come from the states as well, because we need people to get involved locally. That's going to, so having a good communication strategy, having support for our candidates from the top levels all the way down is going to help our states with their recruitment. Getting those members back is going to help with our fundraising. We're going to have a bigger donor pool, so we're going to have a even if the same amount of people give the same amount of money, now we have more people giving the same amount of money, and we just have a bigger pool there. I worded that clumsily. I apologize, but I think y'all knew where I was going with that. So I do have that strategy, and it really comes down to communicating with libertarians, making sure we're getting in front of libertarians, making sure that we're asking for money, and showing the good work that we're doing.
Great. Thank you, Tony. To you, Amanda, do you have a fundraising strategy, a communication strategy, a member recruiting strategy, or plans for them?
So it's funny because this event that we're doing right now is partly a fundraising strategy for getting lower income delegates to Grand Rapids. So I do have some fundraising experience. We've done amazing work in LPAlliance being able to pull off this initiative. But ultimately, there are people who do fundraising for a living, and I want to be able to talk with them and see what their preferences are. I can't do that alone. One thing that I do think is very important is small dollar donors, especially because if we are trying to recruit members, we're probably going to try and want to focus particularly on people who are younger, who tend not to give a whole lot of money because usually they don't have a ton of money. We need to be targeting these smaller dollar donors and making them feel valued just as much as anyone else. When it comes to communications, advocacy is communications. So anytime that we are engaging in demonstrations, engaging in coalition formation is a type of advocacy. That said, we have amazing opportunities to be out on every single media platform that we can think of. And a lot of times we just don't take them. There are issues going on in states that we could magnify at the national level that would have real impact, and we haven't. So we need to redo the way that we think about communications. Our publication review and advertising committees need to be reactivated. We need to have transparency on the communications committee, no more black boxes where we're not allowed to know as members who posted what tweets. You're going to know who is on your committee. You're going to know what they're saying, and you're going to be able to have a voice in what messaging they put out. For member recruitment, I'm a big believer in speaking tours and events. Being able to get on campuses is hugely important. And again, one of the first things that I wrote with regard to party strategy had to do with individualist collective action, talking about how to do that. You get to people on advocacy issues that are specifically with regard to a pain point in their lives, materially germane, they can feel it. When you get people to engage on that level, they have buy-in, they have investment, they actually have a physical sense of investment because they are advocating with you. That is a huge way to recruit members, is to get them involved in doing something. So these are various strategies that I have, various tactics that I have, that I'm looking forward to working with other members of the National Committee and of the party at large and implementing.
Excellent. Thank you, Amanda. Same question to you, Bryce. Do you have a fundraising strategy, a communication strategy, a member recruitment strategy, or plans for them?
Well, all three of these are going to come down to having identifying people that are really good at all of them and delegating their duties to them. So fundraising, all three of these should have committees where people that are really good at what they're doing are on those committees and doing those jobs. Yeah, and even with recruitment, I mean, you could even make that a paid staff position. Your job is to get on the phone and talk to people that are interested in the party. Your job is to go to these events and sell the message of the party. as far as fundraising goes, beyond just having people who know how to fundraise, one of the ways we're going to get money back is to get membership and affiliate buy-in. And that means having a national party that they can believe in, that they know shows support for them, and that is having successes and wins that are inspiring and motivating to get them involved.
Great. Thank you, Bryce. We have one more question, and then we'll do closings. We will go back to 2 minutes for this question. This one's to Amanda. What is one non-libertarian book, i.e., not written by a self-professed libertarian and not explicitly about libertarianism, that libertarians should read, and why?
So I've avoided this question since we started doing the live streams. I would always ask it to people, and it's finally come to me. So I'm going to do the disclaimer. I'm not going to give you a Machiavelli book because a lot of people know that I love Machiavelli. I would probably recommend the Discourses or something. But one book, then it's true. So this is the book, my favorite book that Machiavelli didn't write, and it's also my favorite fiction book, which is very rare for me. I typically don't read fiction. It's Darkness at Noon. It's by Arthur Koestler. And this is the translation. You want the translation by Philip Boehm because it is the only full translation. There was recently a full manuscript that was discovered in an archive, and this is the translation of that manuscript. Darkness at Noon is autobiographical adjacent for the author, I would say. It takes place during the height of the Great Purges in Stalin's Soviet Union. And it is, I could write dissertations, plural, on this. It is a brilliant excursion on the lack of life of mind that happens when you secede to totalitarianism. And it's just an incredible book. It's very beautifully written. And I think we see these types of psychological horror situations happening in all societies, even in smaller groups. It's a wonderful book. I have it dog-eared to the death. Please do read it. Darkness at Noon.
Thank you, Amanda. Bryce, to you, what is one non-libertarian book that libertarians should read, and why?
Well, depending on who you ask, Hans Hermann Hoppe is not a libertarian, but I think he is. One non-libertarian book that I would recommend is Summa Theologica by St. Thomas Aquinas. Even for non-Christians, there is a lot of stuff in that book that libertarians could transfer into how they go about their day-to-day life, and even ways that they could apply it to libertarianism. So I think it's a great read, even if you're not a Christian or a Catholic, and you should dive into it as soon as possible.
Thank you, Bryce. Tony, to you, what is one non-libertarian book that libertarians should read, and why?
Well, because I watched a chair debate last night, I knew this question was coming. So, and I kind of flip flop because there's two for very different reasons that I would recommend. But I'm going to go with Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance by Robert Pirsig. It's about a guy who's riding his motorcycle across the country on a 17-day trip, and the solitude of riding your motorcycle across the country on a 17-day trip. The act of maintaining the motorcycle serving as a metaphor for taking full ownership of your life, and not turning over to the authority of either the state or the mechanic. By owning your life, by taking that self-ownership, you're better involved in that. And the other book that I was debating was Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes, because that is about somebody who stayed true to his values, even when everybody else was calling him crazy. And as a libertarian, that is something I can identify with. because for decades I've been called crazy for voting third party, and it's been when I was looking back at those two parties, and likewise when Don Quixote looked back at his and went back near the end of his life to social conformity and quote unquote sanity. Um, it was a very sad ending, and he was not happy, and this is my family and my home, and living my truth, and living that liberty life, and talking that up, even as crazy as it sounds to some people, um, is really a message that living your truth is really the message you can take out of Don Quixote. So there, I gave you two.
Excellent. Thank you, Tony. All right. Final question of the night. I'll give you 3 minutes to answer it. This is going to Bryce first. Make your closing statement. Why are you running for vice chair? And why should delegates vote for you in Grand Rapids?
Okay, so what I said this more or less in my opening statement, and I've said it continuously throughout the evening. I am running because I am seeing a lot of financial irresponsibility at the national level, and I'm seeing a severe erosion of affiliate and membership trust. And I believe that through continued support of our affiliates, reinstitution of Project Decentralized Revolution, and throwing our weight around, getting in the weeds with the legislative sessions, making it clear where libertarians stand on things, and pressuring our representatives to maybe think twice before they sell their soul to donors that don't have Americans' best interests at heart. I think that those goals and objectives will get people to trust us again. And there are also things that we can do without spending insane amounts of money so that we can start to recover from the lack of donations in the meantime. So I offer fiscal sanity and sound, clear, concise objectives, and I hope that that's enough to win your vote.
Great. Thank you, Bryce. Tony, to you, same question. Make your closing statement. Why are you running for vice chair, and why should delegates vote for you next week in Grand Rapids?
Well, this is my my message to my fellow delegates. We're at a crossroads. This party is at a crossroads. We're seen by the outside as the spoilers, as the Democrats who like guns, or the Republicans who like weed, or the minor leagues. Inside the party, we have some factional issues. We still have a lot of the infighting. We've got financial issues. We need money. We have seen declines in our membership. We need to bring them back. We need to bring our numbers back up. We've seen losses as libertarians electorally. We need to address these, and we need to address these together. As somebody who's been a state chair, a state vice chair, worked successfully in fundraising, worked successfully in communications, worked successfully in affiliate building, ran twice as a candidate for public office, I know how to defeat some of the obstacles in a way. I can't do it alone, and I don't have all the answers. I'm going to talk to each and every one of you probably several times, and you're probably not going to agree with everything I say. That's not the point. We're libertarians. We're allowed to be contentious. What we do agree on is that we need to see liberty in our lifetimes. What we do agree on is that the Libertarian Party is the best vehicle for us to see liberty in our lifetimes. Please choose me as your vice chair, and I will promise to be that steady hand, the adult in the room, the one who will work with everybody, regardless of your faction, regardless if we have 100% agreement on everything. We're going to debate. I don't have any problem debating, with you, and I have no problem being convinced by you. Even I don't, like I said, I don't profess to have all the answers, but I will work with you, and I will work as hard as I possibly can and give everything to this party, just like I have for the past 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Amanda, to you, why are you running for vice chair? Why should delegates vote for you? Please make your closing statement.
Sure. Thank you, everyone, again for being here. Thank you, Free, for hosting. Thanks, Kyle, I guess. And thank you also to Tony and Bryce. This has been really fun, and I think that we've learned a lot. I'm running for vice chair because I do not want to sit on the sidelines of what is happening, not in the country and not in the party. And I don't want anyone to sit on the sidelines of what is happening in the country and the party. And as vice chair, I'm going to make sure that there are opportunities to step up and be leaders in this party, no matter who or where you are within this party. It's time for all of us to stand up. We are seeing a rapid diminution in major party alignment, and we need to take advantage of that. And we can't do it by only elevating a few people, by only making a few phone calls, by only circulating a few petitions. This needs to be a war on all fronts. This needs to be something that allows all members to shine, to engage the talents and skills that they have. And I have plans to make that happen. I have plans to work with states to make that happen, to the extent that I am making it my full-time job. You're going to get a full-time vice chair with me. One reason that I want to run as well is the fact that we need new ways of doing things. We need kind of radical ways of doing things, and we also need that balance. I don't think everyone on the board should be radical, but I do think that we need folks who are able to stand out in front and represent our principles strongly. So I want to have your vote in Grand Rapids. I'm happy to talk with you anytime, before, during, and after convention. And again, would love to have you vote for me. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Amanda. And I would just like to say thanks for doing this, all three of you. I thought you had really great ideas. I appreciate your passion for the party. I appreciate you being willing to give your time for this and run for this position. And I'd also like to give a shout out to my show. I do a show called Are You Smarter Than a Politician? It is on tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern. It's Tuesdays and Fridays, 8 p.m. Next Tuesday, we will have, I think, 3 or 4 of the people running for chair of the National Committee. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then next week, we are doing the show live on Saturday night from the National Convention, which will be awesome. And it's on the main stage. That'll be a really great time. And I also want to say, I really appreciate LPAlliance. I'm a huge fan of the work you guys do. I support you guys, and appreciate you letting me do this debate. I had a lot of fun doing it. So thank you.
Thank you, Free.
And thank you to everybody in the chat and everybody that paid for questions. And if you'd like to support the Povertarians getting to Grand Rapids next week, you can still do so. Go to LPAlliance.com. Any other housekeeping things you want me to do here, Kyle, or should we sign off?
I mean, I'm pretty good with the sign off.
Perfect. Appreciate y'all. Looking forward to seeing everybody in Grand Rapids next week. That's going to be so much fun.